This episode of the Flying Pigskin Show is sponsored by BRG Apartments.
It's a very special Tuesday edition and playoff clinching edition of your premier digital streaming show about the Cincinnati Bengals. It's the Flying Pigskin Show. I'm PJ O'Keefe filling
He's
in.
actually on vacation this week.
Well, no, not really.
Not on this show.
Well, this is vacation.
When you have a win on Monday Night Football on primetime that clinches the postseason for you for the fourth consecutive year in franchise history, you come in from vacation.
You get up and down. Chris Reaver, how are you?
I'm fantastic.
Clearly.
How can you not be after that game?
Absolutely. We came through. They came through.
They did. We said it was going to be spirited, and we said they were going to show up and play. I don't know if I saw a 4-interception type of effort.
No, I don't think anybody saw that.
Job.
I don't think anybody saw that. There was, I will point out, a mood of negativity in this room this time last week by some of the folks that are sitting behind the monitor.
There's still somewhat of a mood of negativity.
Luke and Still's like, I don't know about this team.
Well, I love it. I love this.
They just beat the second best team in the AFC.
I love it, but we are just in the same position we've been every other year, and I'm still waiting. I mean, I thought they would. I'm an Andy Dalton detractor, and I'm pessimistic, and I thought they would be right where they are right now.
Well, you were
going to the playoffs, and then we wait. And see. This is the first of 3 straight primetime games we're going to have.
Right.
We won the first one, but the last one is the one that's going to matter.
And he didn't do anything to shut you up last night.
No.
Well, he didn't have to.
Well, okay, but wouldn't you feel better if you saw something? I mean, like.
He's going to have to, PJ, at some point.
Well, yeah.
You're going to need that, like when Phillip Rivers was playing the other night, and they were down. You know, when you see that in his eyes, and you see that kind of comeback that he comes, that's because he's driving the team
with a bulging disc in his back.
Yeah, but whatever. I love this is much better than the lost decade, and I love being a Bengal fan right now compared to almost any other time in my life. But
it was like 20 years.
Yeah, we don't need to get into specifics.
15 to be exact.
There you go. We don't need to get into
Jordan,
specifics.
TJ is in the house. PJ is sitting in the chair.
That's right. We flop positions once again. Good show coming for you today. We have Jim Breach. He'll be on Skype with us shortly. We'll be joined by the director of engineering here at WCPO, who happens to be a Denver enthusiast. Who knew?
He has a lot to be enthused about this morning.
He does.
I told him to pack his lunch.
And good. And then we'll be joined by representative of KMGH, the Denver television station, Scripps-owned Denver television station. He's actually in town, though, right?
I think we're going to call him in his hotel room. He covered the game. That's
he
what
traveled
I understand.
to see us.
I've been communicating with him via email, but
Where do they stay? Omni?
I have no idea. but he said we were going to be getting him up, and then he would go to the airport after he talked to us, something like that. But yeah, he works regular on sports coverage on television out there in Denver.
So, 4 or 5 weeks ago, Kim Bruce sitting in that chair asked, can this team get to 10 wins? There was like, this is post-Cleveland game.
It was when we were like 3-2-1, which that was a good question at that point. That's right after the 2 losses.
No, I think it was right after the Cleveland game. He especially was like, whoa.
I think we had a very spirited discussion then about if we could. We were trying to pick out points on the schedule if they could get a win here, could they get a win here. I think the Buccaneers were the one everybody looked at and said yes, and then there were some question marks about it. And sure enough, they just proved with a swinging hammer, 10 wins, no problem. No problem at all.
With the hammer of the playoff Thor, Matt Lucan.
I'm with you. Hey, I told you this is the glory days.
Glory day.
I mean, I'm not.
No, this is glory day in your mind, Matt. This is just today.
No, this is the glory years, but still.
Can we talk about something? The very first thing I was curious about, because obviously I wasn't at the game last night. I was in REM sleep for most of it. The crowd. What was the atmosphere like at the Jungle? Was it the Jungle that we know?
Well, it's building. That's what we were talking about. Mike works on the field, but I was down there too. And yes, the crowd was fired up. They were filled. It was filled to the top, and they're beginning to believe. But I think people who are at the games, 75-80% of them are the group that come all the time. They went through the 90s and the early 2000s, and we all still have that trepidation of, when is it going to drop? But who couldn't love that last night? We got on top of them, stayed on top of them.
Well, and there were a few moments, I think, that collectively everybody they thought they saw when it was dropping.
Initially, Andy Dalton.
Initially, of course, and then
when it was 28-27, right, Matt?
And Peyton picked it up in the third.
What was great is early on when they struck twice, we answered immediately. They scored their touchdown, and then Hill ran it in, I think, on the next play, and then they had that long run back and scored. and then we had the long run back right after it.
Guys, is the identity of this offense now a running football team?
Yes.
Absolutely.
I don't mean to ask
no,
a stupid
absolutely.
question.
It's not a passing football team.
No, it's a valid question.
Because at the beginning of the year,
is.
Hugh was throwing a lot of wide receiver screens, and you have A.J. Green.
And the last few years of success, it's been very on the back of A.J. Green, and even if you go back to some of the success in the mid-2000s, Hushmanzada and Chad Johnson, this team quietly became a top 5 NFL rushing team.
And so with that said, for them to have any success next week or wherever, they've got to continue to pound the ball.
Keep the ball on the ground. Without further ado, let's bring in Mr. Jim Breach, Bengals all-time leading scorer. Jim, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
We're awesome. How are you?
I left my voice there last night.
I love it.
Good.
Where were you sitting?
About the 30-yard line up in the club seats, just back from the rain. So we were one row back from getting wet.
It's only appropriate that a man of his stature should have such seats. I just want to point that out.
Not typically, but it worked out really well, I can tell you.
Yeah.
So, Jim, your take on the atmosphere last night, can you compare it to anything that is as loud as?
It was definitely a playoff atmosphere. It was full. I thought it was similar. Pittsburgh was similar. This one might even had a little bit more to it because there was even more at stake last night. It was awesome. It's great when it's full. People were going crazy. It was a lot of fun, and as you said, your collective breaths kind of left you when that first one was returned for a touchdown. You're thinking, oh, now here we go again. They just wouldn't stop, even when they. When they're up and then Jeremy Hill fumbles and they're driving and he fumbles and Peyton takes him down. It's 28-27. And did anybody really think that they were going to win that game at that point? And it just turned out they played awesomely, and the crowd was a huge factor. The crowd was great.
And so if the game against Cleveland was sort of a question mark, we weren't sure what we learned because of the way Johnny Manziel played. I dare to say that either the Bengals defense made Peyton Manning look like Johnny Manziel, or maybe there was something. But what's your key takeaway from what we learned going into next week and going into the playoffs? Now we're going into the playoffs.
Right.
I had to remind myself.
They played a primetime game and they won. They kind of got that. Hopefully, they got that monkey off their back and they go into Pittsburgh and get off to a quick start this next week. I think it showed. Dalton didn't play spectacularly. Obviously, he throws for 140 yards. However, he did make some plays. He made some plays with his feet, running the ball. He made some critical throws, kept some drives alive. And then what can you say about Jeremy Hill? The guy's just a beast. So and the defense, I think they gave just enough pressure. I mean, they didn't pressure him that much, but when they got in his face, he threw the ball quickly, and obviously he didn't throw it particularly accurately. And then when they took Newman out and put Kirkpatrick in, that really turned the tide, because he changed everything. I mean, the guy played great, and those 2 interceptions certainly didn't hurt, to say the least.
And I think it's 3 in the last 2 weeks for him. So you're right, he has been playing well. So the first things first, they get into the postseason. Now they look to Pittsburgh and the division title. Your take on this game coming up in Pittsburgh, and is Pittsburgh, in your mind, a better football team right now than Denver?
Yes. I think their defense is playing better. And I think just the things that Roethlisberger does with with the way he keeps drives alive, with the way people just bounce off him, and the way they're running the ball with Le'Veon Bell. I think they have a better running game than Denver. Their passing game is equal to Denver's in many ways, and their defense is playing well. They're a hard matchup because they're so deep at wide receiver, and Roethlisberger has the capability of throwing the ball 60, 65 yards down the field, whereas Manning maybe tops out at 50. So I don't think guys worry too much about Manning going over the top, even though it worked once. For the most part, he can't throw it out there as far as he used to.
Yeah, and defense is going to be very important next week as a result of that. Back to last night's game, it really looked as if the Bengals had more preparation for this game than any that, from a defensive perspective, than any that I've witnessed and watched this year. Can you give some insight, maybe what they looked at for Peyton and what they're looking at next week to make the same result happen?
Well, I think the good part is they just played them, just 2 weeks ago. So it's not like it's something, it's somebody they run an offense and you just played them.
Right.
So the preparation will be honing on the things that what did they do in the fourth quarter? They ran that power sweep. Guess what? I bet the Bengals put a lot of time in on that because that's what the Steelers are going to do, right? So it's going to be that type of preparation. But they say, conversely, A.J. Green went for 224 yards. Will he even be able to go next week?
Right.
So I think you'll see the Bengals stick to the run game more next week, trying to keep Pittsburgh off the field, and then sprinkle in the passes like they did last night. Think about this. I mean, these guys were giving up 76 yards a game rushing. The Bengals go for 207. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, they had a stout run defense. There's no doubt about it. And if you go back to the last Pittsburgh game as well, I know we're talking on, but jumping around on subjects. They were in that game. They just got beat in the fourth quarter badly. Yes. But so yeah. So
when they played, they got beaten badly by Cleveland a month or so ago, and then played them again in a month, and turned everything around. So they at least were able to. They showed they can see some of their mistakes, see a bad performance, and then come back against the same team and do a lot better.
What's interesting about the Pittsburgh game when we played them, I agree we need to run the ball, but against Pittsburgh they were throwing at will against them. A.J. Green had 200 yards, didn't he, in that game?
He did. Yes.
I don't think
but what if he can't go? His arm is pretty banged up. What if he can't go next week?
Yeah,
True.
That was hanging like a dead chicken wing when he would walk
amazing.
off. I mean, he just looked like he one arm would work and one arm wouldn't.
He had some precautionary X-rays at some point during the game. No news on that yet. We'll stay on top of it. Jermaine Gresham then takes the lead with 9 catches. He's come through as sort of an unsung hero.
He pulled a boner again last night. Did you see him starting to reach for that first down or whatever? He did it again. He does that all the time. He got the ball, and then he got excited, and he reached out, and boom, it's on the turf.
And I think that, yes, that was an unfortunate fluke, but it did.
Fluke!
It bounced the right way, and that was kind of the general feeling of last night.
How the Bengals came up with that ball, I have no idea.
Yeah, it bounced the right way, which it just sometimes it does, and that's what you need.
They deserve
in these. Exactly, they deserve it. That's what you need in these seasons.
That's what me and Brian were saying. The guys I sit with, and we say it, and he said he has a friend. As soon as Gresham catches the ball and takes 3 steps, you go, "Don't drop it."
Hold on. That's
the first thing you have to say to yourself.
The circle I run with, they call them stone hands. Anyways, Jim, we can't leave you without talking about the special teams, which, I mean, you could argue maybe won that game last night.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you, if you had to pick a most valuable player, I don't think you get too far from Adam Jones and probably feel pretty good about it. I mean, he has an interception. He was, toward the end there, when they brought in Newman, at points he was taking on Demaryius Thomas straight up, and Thomas didn't have many catches after that. And the returns were amazing. The guy he's crazy when he gets the ball. He sees holes. He runs for space. It's amazing. When he runs, the field kind of opens up. If you ever notice, it seems like there's creases there that other guys don't have. It's just because he's all over the place. But he runs the daylight unbelievably, and it spurs you on after the big return at the start of the second half, and he comes back and runs 180 yards. Incredible. The guy's just I mean, if you kick a ball if you keep it in bounds on a kickoff, he's probably going to try and return it. And I'd be holding my breath every time he does if you're the opponent.
Yeah, you're right, and he is aggressive.
Yes.
I mean, he returns, he does not fair catch. He is aggressive.
Which is why they subbed in Brandon Tate when the downpour started. I think they were looking for some more sure-handedness.
Well, I think part of that, but I think also
they always rotate
they
him
come
around.
off a long drive, and I think you just got to give him a break every once in a while. How about Brandon Tate? The one thing about Brandon Tate, I wish he would do more. He kind of went right. Typically a great punt returner. You beat the first guy that's coming down. You get by the first guy, and then go up the field. The great guys take it right back up the field. If you watch really big punt returns, so often it's you miss one and boom, you're gone. And that's what Tate did. He got by the first guy. He turned it up, and what a great return. I wish he'd cut it back. into the middle. I think he'd gotten all the way, but he set him up. That was awesome.
And Adam Jones is the NFL's leading returner right now, average return yards. So can we compare him? I mean, people always talk about Devin Hester and Dante Hall of old. Those are the premier return guys. Adam Jones I think he's now in that category.
Oh, he absolutely. Not from the
I think he's been a great returner for a long time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When he was in
The
Tennessee,
problem is,
no doubt.
he's playing so well at DB that he doesn't return as many. Well, actually, he does return them because he rarely calls a fair catch. But these other guys, Devin Hester's kind of a returner that is playing some wide receiver, whereas Adam Jones really a DB that's a great returner. I don't know if he is quite in Devin Hester's class. You looked at the number of touchdowns. But I can guarantee if you're the opponent, think about this, every time the ball's punted or kicked to him, you're not comfortable with it. And to me, that's when you know you have a really good returner.
Absolutely. And how much credit do we need to give Jones, and how much credit do you give the rest of the special teams, the coaches, and the preparation there? Those guys are sort of the unsung, the 10 blockers.
You have one play to be special.
Exactly. They're sort of how much credit do you give them versus Jones versus who should we be pumping?
I guess that's why they call it special teams, right?
Right. Right, and you know what? And when you have big plays in special teams, one or two, the team typically wins, especially when they're high-caliber teams playing in December.
It's deflating.
It's what they call the hidden yards. The Bengals had 250 yards of hidden yards. Think about that.
Wow.
They had 22 first downs last night. 25 first downs on kickoff on return yards. If you think about it, 250 yards. That's unbelievable.
That's incredible. That's up and down the field several times. So pivoting to perhaps a point of concern, I think, going forward, and to make sure that this team stays focused, there were a couple of penalties last night that
And turnovers.
and this is 2 weeks in a row too. I know Johnny Manziel was sort of emotionally charged, and there was a lot to prove there. But what are you telling those guys in the locker room? Is that a focal point? What do you think, Jim?
I think I tell them, you need to come out. This is the playoffs. You have the playoffs going on here. Every week from now on is the playoffs. If they come out with the energy they came out with the last 2 weeks, they can play with anybody. But I have a question for you. Is there anybody anywhere who thought that Peyton Manning would throw more interceptions than Johnny Manziel did?
That's valid.
Yeah.
No.
You mentioned Peyton Manning. It's the first time a Bengals team has ever beaten a Peyton Manning-led football team.
About time.
And I think Peyton Manning was like 22-1 lifetime against AFC North competition.
Impressive.
It is. So
The guy's a phenomenal. I mean, he's one of the greatest players to play the game. And obviously his arm isn't what it used to be, but he gets rid of the ball so quickly that it's incredible the anticipation he has. So I give those guys so much credit on the back end because they have great receivers. And you didn't hear a lot about their Thomas, their tight end, which tight ends usually kill the Bengals, right? And
I know, and Julius Thomas is one of the best.
Last few guys, they've been doing a great job on tight ends, so I give a lot of credit. And there was Taylor May sighting last night with a sack, and they put him in there a lot to cover tight ends and did a nice job.
Jim, you mentioned the tight end from Denver. He's from your neck of the woods. He is from, I think he went to Tokay High School. Down in Lodi.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's from Lodi. Yep. Dad's a principal there. Anyway.
Can I tell you? This is how old I am. We played Tokay High School my first game my senior year, which was their first year that they had a school.
That's good to know.
We won't tell
principal
anyone.
There
we
now.
won't tell anyone.
Anyway. Oh, that's awesome. Good stuff. There's so many
been...
milestones and hurdles they got over. Playoffs, prime time, beating a Peyton Manning squad.
Kind of the world off your shoulders, or a little bit of weight lifted. I think there's probably a good attitude in that locker room this morning. Jim, is there rest this week for AJ Green? What did you get the sense from him? And without him, who's your go-to?
Well, I think it goes back to Sanu, which he was earlier in the year. It's interesting when he's out, Dalton spreads the ball around more. Teams trying to play AJ Green straight up. I think he's a tendency to go that way, which kind of makes sense, right? I mean, the guy's as good as there is.
Right.
But it seems like it's almost a more efficient offense when the ball gets spread around. I mean, they scored 37 points, one on the return, but the offense moved the ball pretty well. They had some really short fields, but it didn't seem like they weren't moving the ball. So even without think about this, they beat them without A.J. Green.
Right.
Yep.
No catches.
So there's a capability there.
Yes, indeed. Who gets your game ball, Jim? It's our poll question this week up on the Flying Pigskin.
I gotta split it up, fellas. I gotta give to Jeremy Hill and Adam Jones. I don't know that I can pick one over the other, and I'd probably go Jeremy Hill if he didn't have the fumble down on the 5-yard line.
Yeah, and that was a very.
What about you guys? What do you think?
Well, I agree with you. I think Adam Jones and Jeremy Hill both deserve a game ball.
Yeah, and the only reason I'll lean towards Jeremy is just because he was consistent. He kept plowing away. He ran angry last night. He really did. And every first down, he made sure that defense knew that it was a first down. I got to give it to Jeremy.
Can't turn the football over though.
That was an impressive fumble strip. It really was. I mean, that was Von Miller, I think it was. I mean, that was pure strength. I mean, I don't think anyone could have held on to that ball. The situation he was in, and he was backed up against a couple of defenders, and I think he wanted to go down. He just barely couldn't. So I got to give it to Jeremy.
Here's the problem, though: is you have 5 fumbles this year, and teams. This is one of the reasons they drafted him. He never fumbled in college.
Right.
So that guys it's an art. That stripping the ball is really an art, and he really, really has to protect the ball even more than what he's doing now. So I'm sure he's surprised that these guys are getting the ball out, but they're getting the ball out, and they know how to do it. So, they got to work on that. He's got to protect the ball more, because there's turnovers. As you can tell, I mean, turnovers. It looked like turnovers were going to be what turned the game against us, but at the same time, it was turnovers by Denver that turned the game for the Bengals.
And Jim and you guys, I was saying this to Chris this morning, looking at Jeremy Hill. We were saying he's a beast, and one of the things I've noticed, if we can criticize Marvin for all we can about his coaching, but he can't evaluate talent. Like, where does Jeremy Hill come from? They've got talent. They rebuilt from the down season a few years ago, but he's pretty remarkable at evaluating talent and bring good talent here.
I absolutely agree, but there's also another person on the staff that you don't hear too much about. Excuse me, Duke Tobin.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Duke Tobin is the head of the of pro personnel, I believe, or personnel. So he's a de facto GM. He and Marvin, I mean, they just do a phenomenal job with talent evaluation. And since Duke Tobin, and along with Marvin's abilities, that's where these great drafts, I think, are coming from. They just have a feel for these guys that are really going to perform. And we like the culture in the locker room much more. And you certainly like the talent because this team has some depth that you're talking about the lost 90s. The Bengals had a lot of talent. They had no depth. So and you can't avoid injuries, right? So as soon as somebody would go down, they couldn't replace him. The guys just weren't capable. But now the guys are capable, at least for a few games, to hold in there until we get somebody back. They played without Lamar last night. Flowers played, and really did a nice job. He really didn't notice that he was out there making any mistakes for a young guy. So you got to give coaching staff a lot of credit. Give Marvin and Duke Tobin a lot of credit. And they come out with the energy they came out with last night. They can play with anybody.
Jim Breach, always a pleasure. We will talk to you after Pittsburgh.
Sounds great, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks, Jim.
Have a good week.
We haven't lost our sponsor yet.
This is good.
This is good news. So yes, exactly. So we'll take a quick break here. Thanks to BRG Apartments.
BRG Apartments is offering fantastic savings for every new move-in to one of BRG's 34 communities. Find your home before the holidays, and BRG will donate $50 to the Free Store Food Bank. Visit us at brgapartments.com.
Kind of to go on to the point that we were just talking about with depth and everything, and I've always said that the teams that are successful in the NFL are the teams that deal with injuries the best, because everybody's hurt.
Yes.
But think about the people that are on the sidelines, the tight end position, the linebacker position, And if they were full strength, we'd be feeling much, much better about this football team.
Absolutely.
We feel good about it right now. I'm just saying, they have certainly dealt with their fair share of blows this year physically.
Absolutely, and I think the linebacking position, Jim was just talking about it. Emmanuel Lemur didn't play last night. Burfict has basically been non-existent this year with the exception of a couple of weeks. Mal Lugas stepped up. I
Played
think,
well.
And that was a point of conversation in the circle I was watching the game with last night, was that traditionally he's just been a ho-hum, fill some space kind of guy. And he's played angry this year.
Well, it's funny. Matty's really referred to it the last month, shooting gaps, playing in a way that you haven't seen him play in a long time. So,
absolutely. And Vincent Ray stepped up big time. I mean, he was right in listening to Peyton's calls and audibles. And that was, I think, the most impressive thing for me out of anything last night was just how in tune that defensive squad was. Any change Peyton made, any call he shouted out, those guys were on it. And whether they necessarily understood exactly what was going to happen or not, you could see some visible shifts. There was a DB that came in. There was a linebacker that moved. That was incredibly impressive.
And that's usually what Peyton Manning does well, right? He disrupts the defense and confuses them. And to be with it in that type of game, I think, really gives a lot of credit to Paul Gunther and that defensive unit. Job well done.
They were very prepared. And as I said, there's not a game that I can remember, and rightfully so, right? They finally matched the stage that they were on from a preparation perspective. And everybody knows the Broncos. You circle them on the schedule, right? And when they come to town or you're headed their way, you have to bring everything that you have. And I think they did it even on the offensive side of the ball. Let's talk about that a little bit. The read option is not a new thing for them, but I got to give Andy Dalton credit. A couple of times he read that perfectly. Von Miller or one of the Broncos linebackers set the edge a couple times, and every single time he read that right. They executed that very, very well.
And the consequence of that was how outstanding the run game was all night last night. Again, can they take it to Pittsburgh this week? Let's hope so.
Let's hope so. TJ, I'll have you look up a stat for us. I think this is one of the Bengals' highest rushing efforts, 207 total yards, but check me on that if this is their highest this year. I know it's the highest the Broncos have given up. Traditionally not.
Yeah, they're coming in as one of the better run defenses in the league.
You guys were talking about what are we going to do without Green, getting it to Sanu or whatever. But They need to use. Feel like they could exploit teams using Bernard more with Hill. He got out on those linebackers yesterday, scored a touchdown. I know those are rookie linebackers, but still, he's faster than them. If they can do something like that, maybe mix it up if they're without Green. I don't know.
I think he's faster off the line. I don't know if he's faster deep in the
straight
field.
line speed.
Yeah. Right, but quick enough to get out.
Yeah, there was one or two instances last night. There was a cross route. They had Bernard motion out right, and he came across the field left, and just absolutely afterburners blew away the linebacker that was covering him.
He did that on the touchdown. Yeah, he lined up on a linebacker, and he cut across the field, and the linebacker couldn't keep up at all. So
absolutely. But that is a question mark. Without AJ, Sanu has all but disappeared. I don't know what his stats have been, the last 4 or 5 weeks, but I haven't heard his name called.
No. He hasn't been around really since the reemergence from the turf toe injury from AJ Green.
Yep.
And, and it's funny because what you were saying, wasn't he considered one of the most overrated players that was producing at that time, where I was like, oh my gosh, look at the emergence of Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah,
I still think he's there. And I think he's going to have to step up.
There's some talent, and yes.
What was the extent of the injury? They say arm. Was it a bone? Was it an elbow? What was a hand? I didn't see.
They wrapped
it was
his
the hit on the initial interception, right?
Yes. So it was basically a high shoulder pad helmet hit to his right arm, and they wrapped his right bicep. And the entire time, he was just dangling after the injury. He tried to come in a few times. He still was able to execute routes, but as soon as there was any type of bump or press coverage, he was grimacing and he had to come off the field.
Well, Pittsburgh will just step right up to that.
And they're known for that. That's
yeah. The Pittsburgh game, and this could not be more.
There he is.
It could not be more what we fear, and they got to step up and overcome what they haven't been able to do. But this is just built into everything is on the line, and we're playing the Steelers. So if they win next week, then they can say, look, we stepped on them.
Awesome.
They think they're going to win. Most Bengal fans fear they're going to win. The Steelers.
That's well said, Matty.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, we want them to win after last night. We're optimistic. hopefully. But oh my God, it's the Steelers. And
But let's not forget how this team has played on the road this year.
Yeah.
Exceptionally well.
Oh, I know, and I think they'll do better than they. They'll handle Bell sort of like they did last time until the end. But
They've won at Pittsburgh.
But
before,
what
you know?
about-
I mean, they can do it.
What about Denver and Oakland next week? If Oakland wins and we win, we get a
That's funny,
bye.
Brian. That's funny,
We get
Brian.
a bye.
That's what
really
I'm saying. What's
funny.
on the line here? I mean, basically
Oakland
a
hates
home
Denver.
playoff game.
Yes.
And then potentially a bye.
And potentially,
Yeah.
if Derek Carr and the Oakland Raiders
It's a Hail Mary, but
somehow come
any
back
given
after
Sunday.
a Denver team.
Any
And all
given
this,
Sunday.
and all of a sudden,
You're right,
yeah,
you're right.
Now Denver has reason to play. Yep.
Exactly. So we heard a lot of these, a lot of Who Days last night, and Mr. Sattin's been out, our bon vivant, as Ken Brew always says, and Mr. Sattin's been out tracking down some of those Who Days. Let's take a look at what he's got.
I hit it.
yay, nay.
Or
Oh, nice.
oh, there we are.
Okay.
There's our
Hard
logo.
crash.
Okay.
So we get back.
Mr. Sattin's gonna give us a second here.
Yeah.
Well, we don't know. We're gonna have to just fire it up.
That's fine.
Yeah.
You guys fired up. I want to touch on something. You know, we had the fourth quarter collapse against Pittsburgh, and last night that was the third quarter. There's definitely some concern that this is a three-quarter football team, and as Mr. Satin joins us, we'll get him
We
rigged
had a
up.
little technical malfunction
Technical-
in the
that's
digital
fine.
world.
I like it.
These things happen, and
Basement's-
my coffee maker gives
Basement's
me
got
the
the
fit.
Christmas
We got
lights
the
plugged
spinning.
in.
We got the spinning wheel of death back here on the computer.
Oh, that's the
By
worst.
the way, did anybody notice the wreath around Paul Brown?
Yes.
It's very nice.
Outstanding.
Very holiday.
And the
Good spirit.
stockings hung by the
Did you stay
wall
out all
with care.
night? Have you been to bed
I'm
yet?
still out.
He's still out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Still out. Welcome,
What a
Mr.
game. I'll tell you what. Super Bowl. Let's talk Super Bowl.
Whoa.
Who do we
Whoa.
Who do we want in the Super Bowl?
Whoa.
I think that was the first segment.
We should open the show with that.
I want Carolina.
Yeah,
We haven't
Carolina.
finished our game yet with them.
I love it.
It's still going.
Take out
Playing for
Pittsburgh.
division
still
crown
tied.
themselves.
Can we speak Pittsburgh and Pittsburgh first?
Oh man! All right, that's true. That's,
I-
that's on the agenda.
1 week at a time. Mr. Sadden, where did you watch the game last night?
I ran around. You know, I started the game.
As only he should.
Yeah. Started the game at some friend's house. Ended up at some other friend's house. You know, tried to get down to the game. Noticed that there was a hurricane down there. Stayed away. The doctors advised that.
Yes, they do.
But man, it was amazing. We had Mother Nature on our side last night. I think we had the gods. The football gods came down.
They deserve to sprinkle a little whatever they sprinkle
Yeah.
on the Bengal nation.
No,
I think
no
at one
complaints.
time it was just raining on Peyton Manning, which is pretty awesome.
Single cloud, yeah.
Peyton will follow you around.
That's right. That's quite possible.
I think Houday Nation sort of brought that, which was great.
What was your sense in the several homes that you bummed the game of Bengals Nation?
A lot of drinking. That was number one. A lot of Houday chants. First, there was a lot of screaming at the television. Well, there was a lot of screaming at the television a lot of times. It was tough to get a ticket yesterday. But, you know, when I really thought AJ's arm was broken. It looked snapped in half. And it was, you know, I think I did a little hashtag classic Dalton, just overthrowing it.
Yeah.
So my whole thing was, you know, we need to get this guy in the offseason into darts or get one of those tires in his backyard. You know what I mean? Like, he's
Get him to
got
play
A tire
cricket.
in the backyard.
yeah, or, man,
Yeah, there you
wheel
go.
it around on some
Just
on a
like
caster
Joe
or
Namath
something.
or something.
The guy needs a little. I mean, how high do you have to be? I mean, you got. Come on, get him in a dart league. I think.
You bring up a good point.
Triple.
Yeah.
You bring up a good point because all four of the throws to AJ Green were overthrown.
Oh,
So
my gosh.
insert Matt Lucan comment about Andy Dalton's readiness here.
Or Mike McCoy. This is where we need Mike
That's
McCoy.
right.
He would be reveling in this performance.
What's funny, I was
you know.
talking to TJ. It
What
was
we
funny- and
we
you're
had like
what does he come out
150
so
yards
pumped up?
passing or something
Comes out
last
to-
night.
He comes out almost too pumped up. Maybe
First
that's your
pass
best
is
theory, right?
Undoubtedly, always overthrown.
Yeah.
He comes out just like I was in high school. That was my
Like all DBs from now on.
nickname.
gonna wing it.
Nickname the Iceman, if anybody remembers when I was.
Oh yeah.
Very
freeze up
nice.
Yeah.
but,
What program?
Basketball, Purcell Marion.
There it is.
There, the
Cavaliers.
pride. The pride of.
There you go.
The Iceman.
Yeah.
I got a couple of Cavaliers in my family.
They remember you there, TJ.
Yes,
Mr.
they
Sadden,
do.
Did you play football?
Oh yeah, you
In high
know,
school?
I turned down a Division 12 scholarship at one point.
What position?
Well, I did start at left out.
Yeah.
Then moved to left tackle. Got it together, and hey, I never allowed a sack, so that was pretty good. But you know, I figured there was more beyond football for me, so I had to make that transition.
Yes,
So,
internet television.
yeah, right. You know, so we've arrived.
You peaked, friend.
Speaking of arrivals, we found you on the
Oh.
street. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
Hey, what's happening? This is Mr. Satin for the Flying Pigskin. We're down here at the Edwin H. Green Intermediate School. We're gonna check out Miss Combs' art class, see what's up with the little hooday. Let's go.
Hooday! 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 What's going on? Hooday!
Down here at the Cincinnati Zoo, and let's go give some beasts some hooday. We're down here at Scripps. We're gonna check and see how the big wigs do it. Little hooday to the board meeting. Let's check it out.
Administrate empowered markets via plug-and-play network.
Hooday! Hooday!
We're down here at the Woodward Theater for some rock and roll hooday. Hey, we're down here at Martino's on Vine, world famous Steelers bar. We want to see what the love is inside for a little hooday.
The bar is all reserved.
Hooday!
That's old news, though. That's old news. That's last week.
Coming off a short week into that rivalry game, it's gonna be tough.
Our back's against the wall. That's all I know. Yeah.
We gonna win because Andy Dalton can't see.
Sweet, was it pajama day in our class?
You know, that was weird. I was kind of like, what's going on here?
I got young kids, that's what happened.
You're on it.
Yeah, yeah.
The day before winter break,
I like how you roll from the mothership of Scripps straight into the rock show.
Yeah.
And then to the Steelers bar, to Martino.
Right,
You're brave.
right. Hey,
You're
you know
brave.
what? We actually,
It was early. There was like 2 fans there?
yeah, I was kind of I was a little taken back there. I thought we were going to get a little onslaught of Steelers
fisticuffs.
mojo, yeah. But I tell you what, I don't think they're going to be prepared for the Jeremy Hill attack this week. So Kilpatrick yesterday.
Yeah.
I mean, come
He's
on.
really played well the last 2 weeks.
That was awesome.
He has. He
Mr. Satin, for your edification, his name is Kirkpatrick.
Kirkpatrick.
What did I say? Oh, I'm thinking of Kilpatrick
Captain,
from
you know what?
Bearcats.
Don't go out there and make us look bad on the street.
Captain
Kirkpatrick.
Yeah,
Kirkpatrick.
my bad.
To Peyton Manning
He's
last
had a long night, Matt.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's had a very
I had a
long
long
night.
night too.
You
I was
have a
out there.
jumper,
I was
though,
out
you
there.
know.
Me and Mike were out there in the rain. Okay, he was undercover drinking.
in Holmes.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Holmes.
we were out there weathering the
You
elements.
need to get some of the Jim
Braving
Breeze
the
sheets.
elements.
That's right.
Yes.
Those
Covered.
are premier.
We were kind of doing it like, you know, Santa last night. We were hopping around delivering treats. So
Christmas did come early for the Bengals.
Hey, deliver Andy Dalton a dartboard, will you?
Or the tire. Or the tire.
Dartboard for Dalton.
Mr. Satin, who gets your game ball?
Kirkpatrick, I think, gets my game ball last night. That defensive line, it took a minute for them to kind of fire up and get close to Peyton, but we got it, man. We got in there and sacked him a couple times.
Paul Gunther's one of the options, too. I think that really,
Yep.
I mean, it was a total defensive effort all the way around, and they never let him get ahead of us. I mean, that's the thing with Peyton. If he gets ahead, then you're screwed.
Did Newman get hurt, or why did Kirkpatrick enter the game? Do you know?
So is my understanding that he just entered the game.
He just
he's playing well and has
he got
played
pulled,
well.
right?
Yeah, Newman
Let's be
was
honest,
pulled.
it's a first-round pick.
Yeah, but Newman's had a good year.
Absolutely,
you know?
yes.
Yeah,
minus the time there was a blocking incident.
Minus.
Did you remember that?
Yes, minus the
It was
time.
Pittsburgh.
Newman did okay. First quarter.
Yeah, Newman got burned by Demarius several times in the third quarter. And it wasn't even just on plays that Demarius actually caught the ball either. There were a couple that he was just flat out burned. So they put in Dre and
He had an okay first half, though, I thought. I mean,
yeah, he did. Yes, because
player.
Demarius had one, maybe two catches, I think, in the first half. Part of it was, Peyton. Part of it was Peyton. He was underthrowing. And so after the game, a lot of people said, "Oh, is he okay? Is he hurt? Oh my goodness,
Peyton?
is there?" Yeah, Peyton. And he said in the post game, "No, I'm fine. Just he did have that shoulder injury, I think, against the Chargers last week."
He did. It's funny, and that was part of a subject to the NFL Countdown on ESPN last night. Was that he cannot wing it like he used to be able to. John Popovich, our sports director, mentioned that as well.
That's right.
And so did Jim Breach. So
absolutely
in the rain too. That's tough, but I think the defense. We were there. I'd almost give a ball to Don't Call Me Pac-Man Jones.
Oh, absolutely.
He looked killer last night. He looked 20 years younger last night.
he helped
because he was doing this 20 years ago.
Yes,
that's
right.
true. That's true. Mr. Satin.
Oh, Zoll.
Merry Christmas.
Thank
Happy
you, gentlemen.
holidays.
Continue the morning. I love it. Tell me where you're going to be afterwards. We'll have Waffle House on Vine.
Tasty.
Nice.
We're going to bring in Jemai Webster from KMGH-TV in Denver. Jemai, good morning.
Hello, my donut shop.
How's it going? How are you?
Can I take your order?
Did you say, can I take your order?
Nah, what's going on, guys? Just kidding.
Yeah, we've
already had our technical difficulties today, Jemai. Don't mess with us, okay?
Yeah, right.
All right.
Cruel. Jemai, you're calling from which hotel?
Actually, I'm calling from my apartment here in Denver. I'm getting ready to catch a flight, man. I'm going back home, so up early with you guys right now, just talking to football, I suppose.
I misunderstood completely when they said you were getting up.
Holidays.
Yeah. I'm sorry, Jemai. I misunderstood when you were catching the plane. I thought you were in Cincinnati, and you were covering the game, and you were going back to Denver. So you're in Denver, and you're going on your vacation now?
Yeah, exactly, and I'm starting with you guys. I wouldn't be anywhere else.
Yeah, it's a great start to it. All right,
It
let's
is a
get
great
to
start.
it. Peyton Manning traditionally has not played well when he's pressured by a front four. Last night, not necessarily the case. Your synopsis of his performance in the Bengals defense last night?
I think a lot of times we get spoiled with Peyton here in Denver, thinking that the guy's invincible. But I think all throughout his career he's been exposed when a front four has been that tough and put pressure on him. And he looked that way last night. It was one of those games where both teams had a lot riding on the line, and you figure Denver said all the right things leading up to it during the week. And, I mean, I guess, the grand scheme of things, they played okay. And even with an opportunity to win it there when they went up 28-27, scored 21, outscored the Bengals 21-7 in that third quarter, it seemed like they finally hit their strides and they finally were getting into a groove offensively. But the Bengals just overpowered them there. I think this loss afterwards, listening to what the guys had to say afterwards, saying that, we just got flat out outplayed in all phases of the game, offense, defense, and special teams, and being honest about that, it kind of is a slap in the face that they needed with one more game left in the regular season, because they know that they're going to have to be that much better if they want to continue to make this playoff push, because that even felt like a playoff game last night. And it was a real good test for those guys because Cincinnati really handed it to them.
Yeah, perhaps some good motivation for Denver going into Week 17. Jemai, talk to us about, there were a couple of times Peyton and Demarius and actually a couple other receivers, it kind of looked like they might not have been on the same page. Demarius cut out and Peyton threw in, or vice versa, and it led to one or two of the picks that he threw. Is that a theme this year, or is that just a bad night?
Yeah, I attribute that one to a bad night and the fact that Peyton was limited in practice this week, all week. With this eye injury that he suffered in San Diego. You know, those guys really rely on the timing and being on the mark with each other, and I think a little bit of miscommunication happened with a few of those picks. I mean, he threw 4 of them, and 2 went for touchdowns, which is ridiculous, you know, and he even said a few of those were his fault, and they just were on the wrong page. Guys were going in different directions, and then since he was right there to capitalize on them, but I think they'll get those things shored up, and they'll be okay. I don't foresee that being an issue. This team is really takes the onus on themselves, and when they make mistakes, and they really try to go and correct those.
What's the feeling in Denver in that locker room? Are they a better football team this year than they were last year?
Absolutely. And we heard that just a couple of weeks ago when Terrence Knighton made a Super Bowl guarantee, saying that the team will get there and they'll win it. I mean, you know, all teams believe it, I'm sure, but the fact that he came out, and yeah,
we don't. Well, we haven't won a playoff game this century. Okay, so
let me clarify.
We're still waiting, but okay, we can understand how that might feel. Okay.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I mean the fact that he's a guy who's a veteran, he's been in this league for a while, knowing that that's going to create some attention, and for him to say that and feel confident about that just speaks to what this team feels like they have in that locker room, and that they've improved over the offseason. And they learned from last year's debacle in New York.
So what's your view of Cincinnati, of the Bengals, then, Jemai, and particularly of the defense, well, you know, and the offense? I know that Denver's had their share of injuries that have limited them, particularly on the defensive side of the ball. But how much would you attribute to the Bengals and what they did well versus maybe where Denver did some things poorly?
I don't know, man. I think Cincinnati had a great game plan, actually. You know, I watched a few of their games this year, and it seems like the team is temperamental. And you think about the statistic that was against Andy Dalton in primetime games, how horrible he's been traditionally, and the fact that he was able to bounce back from throwing that pick six on their first drive, and then you know, keep his head in the game to really protect the ball from that point on. I think they had a good game plan. I think just like most teams, they're a better team at home than they're on the road, and that they might have, I don't know, you guys probably know better than me, but it seems like they played the best game they had all year.
I agree. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I think so too.
That was the best team we beat all year, but they're one of the best teams in the conference. But yeah, that's definitely the best game. We hadn't beaten anybody really good except for Baltimore to this point. You know, we had 2 wins over Baltimore, and they're turning out to be a decent team, but the rest of the teams we beat, I don't know if any of them have a winning record right now.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yeah, this late in the season, you know, you got to play well, so it seems like they're hitting their stride right at the right time.
We can only hope. You mentioned they're temperamental, though, and that's always, you know, what Matt goes back to is you never know what to expect. So
yeah,
we'll see. So if these two teams, it's possible they meet again in the playoffs. It is possible. What would you expect next time around?
Well, we'd be in Denver.
Unless they lose
exactly.
this
It'd
week.
be in Denver, so I think it'd be a completely different story, and it'd be Peyton's second look. So that's always advantage number 18. It seems like when he gets the opportunity to go at a team again. But they're tough at Mile High. They haven't lost at home. All the losses come on the road. So it's one of those things. Like, they were obviously going for the number 1 overall seed, but that's going to look like it's going to the Patriots for sure now. And they still have an opportunity to get that first round bye next week when they host the Oakland Raiders. So that'll be big, and depending on what happens, you know, how the scenario plays out once the playoffs do start, they're a tough team to beat at home.
Are you snowed in right now? We reported on the morning news, I did at least, that you had about 2 feet of snow.
I haven't looked outside. I probably should have because it's still dark out. But
you better get to the airport. All I'm saying.
Yeah, it was some flurries last night, and you know, it's actually better the game was played over there because all you guys had was rain. It was snowing over here pretty good yesterday.
Jemai, Happy holidays, safe travels. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Hey, no problem, guys. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Same to you.
All right.
So it all comes down. Oh wait, no, we're in the
This
playoffs.
is what hey, Maddie, this is what I love about it. Oh, you know what Denver fans are saying this morning? We're still a better team than Cincinnati. We're still better than they were.
Yeah, like the Oakland.
You know what I mean? I
A's
mean,
were
that's
this
the
year.
confidence that they elude.
Yeah.
And I wonder, and I hate to say it, how much does Peyton have left in the gas tank?
Yeah.
How much does he have left in the
It's a
gas
valid
tank?
question.
Tom, what do you got?
PJ, what was the question on the rushing that you had earlier?
Oh, just seeing
Was it
if
their best
their
overall
best
rushing
overall game.
effort per game?
Actually, last week they had more yards last week against
Cleveland, got it.
than they did this week. The one I was looking at the game last night, the thing that made me really feel good was they punched right back. After Dalton threw that interception, everybody's like, oh boy, here we go again. But to bounce right back, and also crucial in the second half when Denver scored, coming out of the locker room, and they came right back down the field and scored. Those were huge, and that was what you haven't seen all year long. That they took a punch and came right back.
I tell you what, that bounce back, that pick six in the first quarter that Andy Dalton threw, I get a text message immediately after that from my dad. Says, "I'm going to bed."
Yeah.
It did. Yeah.
5 minutes later, Jeremy Hill run.
Right back.
Get another text message says, "Maybe I'll stay up."
Hill did that earlier in the season on another game. I can't remember when it was, but somebody scored and then he ran a touchdown back on the next series.
And they won really.
Maybe we had to keep that thing going.
Was it Jacksonville?
Yeah, it was
See if
early
they'll
in
take
the
a nap
season,
next
but-
week if things start off badly in Pittsburgh.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm still scared, the whole thing. But like I say, I'd rather be in this position afraid that we might lose the playoff game than be in Cleveland or Buffalo or any of those other teams.
Any team that's on the outside looking in.
But it's just, oh my God, it's the same feeling every year. And you just,
Well, here's the deal, Matty. Did you watch the game against Kansas City with Pittsburgh over the weekend? I mean,
yes.
Pittsburgh just knows how to win.
I know.
Roethlisberger,
They grind
I don't
you
care what you
down.
say, is a Hall of Fame quarterback.
They grind you down. Well,
They
he'll
do.
win it because he's got 2 Super Bowl rings. If that's basically
There's no
how
doubt
you
about
get
it, but
into
he's
the
having
Hall
a
of Fame,
career
is you
year
win
on
Super
top
Bowl
of
rings.
it.
But if I remember a couple years ago, they were in the same position, and they had key plays down the stretch with Dalton, Mr. Dalton, and they won in Pittsburgh. So it's possible it could happen again.
Oh, that's true, and they might even win next week and win the division, and then they have the home game, and then then that's when the big stage is. You know, next week, you know, I'd even take having a wild card but win on the road in the playoffs. Just the playoff game is
You
now
want
what
just
they
playoff
have.
wins, what you're saying.
December.
I want the home game because then I get to go. But
Yes.
It's selfish, but true.
December's December's about momentum, and you want to be playing well at the end of the year. Can you imagine if they just come off beating Denver, then they go to Pittsburgh and win? What kind of confidence they would have going into the playoffs? I think you ride that, and the sky's the limit. I mean, you beat 2 good teams.
I got to tell you, Strawman, I think they're a confident group.
I do. I think so too. They're running the ball. That's why.
I don't think they listen to people like us.
No, I don't think they do either.
Well, the defense is confident. I think the running game is confident, and both those parts of the game should be confident.
And the special
teams.
But the passing game isn't
The
confident.
defense should be confident because they're all patchwork. I mean,
Yeah,
you know,
it's fill-ins and shuffles
Liam Hall's
and
been out. The DB's
yeah,
been down.
and they're
Linebackers
changing
are hurt.
midway.
They're starting 4 rookies right now. Yesterday they started
The
4
depth.
rookies.
The depth is
I mean,
stepping up.
that's they put guys in. I mean, 4 rookies making a huge difference. Bodine, Hewitt, Hill, and then Flowers played last night, covering a good tight end. I mean, that's
a great tight end,
Yeah,
an all-pro tight end,
Against a
arguably
great
top 3
quarterback.
tight end in the league.
Well, they got us.
I mean,
They got us one more Monday that we have to work at least doing this show.
Yes.
we know that.
Yeah, you're
okay?
right. Extends the
That's right.
season
Next
for the
week
Flying
is-
Pigskin.
That's right. Next week is not the end.
Sponsors.
We're not
Are
gonna
they
do a
down?
special
That's right.
Bonus?
We'll have to get some
We're not
new.
going to do a special playoff.
Furniture
new-
Fair will not
new
be going
perks.
anywhere. Who provided these lovely chairs?
Thank goodness.
Or love seat. I don't even know what to call these. They're massive. But
well, in the
Loungers.
yeah.
recliners.
Just if Mike McCoy's watching out there, hopefully he
Oh,
is.
that's right.
I want my money.
Yeah, Mike
I want
McCoy.
my money.
Merry
I want
Christmas,
it too.
Mike.
Mike
I want it
McCoy
too,
win.
Mike.
Mike
up.
McCoy, real McCoy fans can rejoice because he's going to be off this week and he's going to be off next week. And if the Bengals didn't make the playoffs, he wouldn't be able to return. But now we get to see him again. Okay, so now we're going to get to see him again.
He'll be back. So will we. Steelers next week. Oh boy,
It's going to be awesome.
it is going to be a lot of fun.
That's what it's all about. First we get the Christmas holiday,
Yep.
and then we get the Pittsburgh Steelers in Pittsburgh for the division title.
Exactly. Merry Christmas to all.
Yes.
To all a good morning. Right back here, 7 a.m. Monday. It's the Flying Pigskin Show.